Hey guys, welcome to a new tutorial. This time I'm going over the new template that I just created, which is the AI lead generation. So this is a complete setup for a lead generation automation, but it's fully powered by AI. So instead of needing maybe 20, 30, maybe even more notes to capture all the user's details to have a decent conversation, basically the first section of this setup will be, this section at the bottom. So these four, right? We have the chat completion, we have the condition, we have a basically typing note to simulate typing effect, and then we have the questions. So this loops around until the entire conversation is done. Then the next step will be to capture all of the information out of this conversation and basically insert that into a JSON field where we can basically map all the data from, right? Then the next step is to also send a confirmation message towards the user, and then generate an email confirmation for that same user and send the email towards them. So that is basically how this AI lead generation flow is working. It's a really, really good flow. You can add as many questions as you want to. And if we take a look at the chat completion itself, you will see that if we go inside, I'm using my AI Mastery app for this template. And for CMA members, this is completely free, unlimited usages and stuff. You can see I'm using the 4.0 mini model. Then inside the system message, you can see that we have bot fields, and you can see that by the B that is standing in front of the variable. And I will go inside all of those bot fields in just a minute. Then for the prompt, basically that is the user's input, that I will use the system field last text input. Remember, history will be set to yes. Chat history will be used with a certain JSON field, and this comes along inside the template. Then for the temperature, 0.4, number of completions 1, max tokens 1000, and this depends a little bit on how big your conversational flow is, how many questions you want to ask. If it's just 1 or 3, you can also reduce the tokens as well. That's a little bit depending on your use case. I just set it at 1000, and especially when using the 4.0 mini model, the cost is pretty much next to nothing. The response format will be text, and then we're going to output both the AI response, which we will map to the similar custom field. And for the history, I have this chat history that I also use here in the insertion. So whenever we are going to insert a chat history, we're also going to save the new one as well. The next step will basically check the condition if this response contains a certain parameter name, which is closing underscore message. And once that is inserted, then we are going to map all the results. If not, we're going to ask the next question inside the conversation. So how can you determine how that conversation is running, right? Because we only have those bot fields. You can access those bot fields from the contents and then go towards bot fields. Either you will have a folder with CMA AI lead generation, or you just have these 4 bot fields beginning with lead. Inside, as you can see, the first one will be persona. I just set a persona, your chat from CMA Innovations. And then we have the role. So what kind of role does this persona need to take? That is, you are to ensure to capture the details of the user using the below conversational flow and guidelines for responses. So that is basically much anything that I want to put in as a role itself. The next segment will be the conversational flow. So how do I want to structure the conversation going from start to finish, right? The more you structure inside the system prompt, the less freedom the AI has to make up and hallucinate their own questions and stuff like that. So that is what this conversational flow bot field is all about. If we take a look and let's stretch it out a little bit, we have the conversational flow. So if the user input is empty or irrelevant to this topic, for example, a new bot user will not have any last text input, so the input will be empty, or the user has engaged with the chatbot at a previous occasion as a last text input, which is not really relevant towards this topic, right? So in those cases, you are to start welcoming the user by introducing yourself and mentioning how excited you are to be able to share this trade secret we have been using for the past 2 years to generate wealth for all our employees. Ask them, and here I need to correct myself, ask them if they are ready to receive a free copy so they can get started today. So that is the introduction. And each section inside the conversational flow is basically followed or begins. It starts with a midline or a hyphen. That means that this is the first section. Then we start with another one. And that also clearly indicates, during my testing at least, that the AI really understands, okay, this is the next part of what I need to ask, right? So when the user is ready to get started, first ask them how they found out about us. So that could be relevant if they're coming from Google search or the website or social media, an ad, right? So that could be something relevant. Once the user replied on how to find out about us, ask them what they are doing for a living. Maybe it's relevant to you. Again, these questions you can just replace as long as you keep the format in place as inside of this conversational flow. The great part is the next part, and also really important for you to understand. So we are basically asking them a main question: what are you doing for a living? So the occupation, right? Based on that, you might want to ask different questions based on the answer of the user. So if you want to split it, I found that this format works really, really well. So between brackets, you mention conditional follow-up question. And here we will say, if the user's occupation is not related to online activities, ask them how well they can handle the computer and internet. Because sometimes people who are doing offline activities, offline jobs, right, are not as handy with computers, especially the older generation. That might also be an issue. And it's good to know that upfront, because if you want to do any follow-up based on this, you have a more personalized follow-up as well. Then we will have another conditional follow-up question. If the user's occupation is related to online activities, ask them if they already know about the principle of our KLT method. KLT is a marketing method that stands for know, like, trust, a certain process in where a lead goes, or basically a person goes from interest knowing the business to liking the business because the business is sharing a lot of content. And based on that, they go into the trust process before being able to sell to them, right? So the KLT is basically a preparation time to get a person from interested party to a lead to a client. And as you can see, we're doing another conditional follow-up question. If the user's occupation, let's see here. If the user does not know about the KLT method, explain in short, it is a process for people to learn more about you, your expertise, without selling anything upfront. So that's a little bit of an explanation, right? Ask them if they want to master this technique. Then another conditional follow-up question. If the user does know about the KLT method, ask them if they already tried to apply it to their business at some point. Because if they already know about it, what is their experience with it? So that's also good for you to know. So these are the things that I put in as dummy data to test the actual template, but those are valid questions. When the questions about occupation and KLT are answered by the user, explain we are about to hand over our exact step-by-step process on how we implemented this method. Customized it, customized and optimal, customized and customized it and optimized it to fit our business, and ask them if they are ready to receive the free copy. When the user wants to receive the free copy, explain we need to register a few details to them. Ask them if they are okay with that. If the user agrees, then first ask for their first name. Afterwards, ask them for their email. Explain we will send the copy there instead over chat. And the last step, let's see. Once the email has been given, only output the JSON payload and nothing else, where the parameter name will be the question asked and the parameter value will be the reply from the user. So all the questions here will then be parameter names, and all the replies of the user will be saved as a parameter value. You are to add a closing message to the payload with parameter name closing message. And the parameter value is your reply where you thank the user for their excitement and notifying them about their free copy will be in their inbox within the next 5 minutes. If not, also mention to let them check their spam folder just in case. And closing message with wishing them lots of fun and a great day. So that is the conversational flow. Not the biggest one, also not the smallest, right? But it is something that is really well structured in how the conversation should go, how you envision the conversation going. So again, really, really important that you have each new segment of the conversational flow, starting with the hyphen. For me, during a lot of testing with a lot of different AI platforms and models, I found that this is working best. So hence me advising it to you. That was the conversational flow. The last one, we will have the lead guideline for responses. And inside, you will see a pretty short one. You can, again, customize this. What I have is reply in first person. Always introduce yourself at the beginning of the conversational flow as requested. Sometimes it skips introducing themselves, and then I need to ask who am I talking to, right? So that is not the perfect one. Use fitting emojis. Tone of voice is friendly, with the witty, informal, and conversational. Sorry. When at the end of the conversation and sign up, only output the requested JSON payload and nothing less or nothing else. This is just to have an additional confirmation that I only need the JSON payload and no additional text and so on. So now that we know this, right, we can go back towards the flow builder and we can actually test this shortly. But let's take a look at the rest as well, because if we have all the information and we receive that payload, then we need to map it. So how does the mapping work? I'm not going to explain this JSON code. For most, it's enough to know that it works. If you're interested, there are some additional descriptions at each individual section for you to learn more about this JSON code and how it works. The parameter name we will use is AI. The parameter value will be the AI response from the AI inside the chat completion. And here I just have an example data that I used when previewing the flow. If we are going to test this function, then you'll see that we will get something like this. So we have the status, we have the result, and we're actually going to only map the result because this will give us all the information that we need about this current sign up. The only thing that I still map separately is the first name and the email, because we can do that directly here. And we can also use that in the next steps. So that is how the JSON works, or the JavaScript works. Then we set the email opt-in because we also want to send them an email, and UChat only allows that if the user actually opted in for email. If you are inside of regions where GDPR or HIPAA is needed, right? So you need to comply with those regulations, do ask the permissions upfront before setting the email opt-in. Okay, so that is something that you will need to do at your own discretion. After some typing delays, we are going to send the user the closing message, which we saved inside the JSON payload, right? Because we get this as a text, but we cannot actually access this closing message. So what this does is we are going inside, we're going to basically transform this, and then we can actually, as you can see, grab this closing message. So if we check the result itself, then you will see that the thing that we need to map is dot closing message. And that's exactly what we are doing inside of this section. So here we are going with, let's just delete it. Let's say a lead, and then we're going with the sign up details. And then from here, we're just going to select the closing message, and then you will get this entire string shown. As you see, it shows much more difficult and advanced than it really is. You just press it, and you have an example, and then you can just say dot closing message. Or if you don't see the example, that means that you are not an admin of the chatbot, which you can do under the tools section. I will skip that part for now. And if this is empty, just pause the video and just copy this over. Once done, we're going to generate another chat completion, basically the email body content. So let's take a look. I put this inside the chat completion itself because it's a little bit differently structured. As you can see, we still have the lead persona, so we're going to reuse that, right? And then the user just signed up to our ebook about our step-by-step process of implementing and perfecting the KLT method into their business. And then the guidelines for response: reply in first person, tone of voice is witty, friendly, only focus on the body content as we will take care of the subject. The ebook can be downloaded using this link. Again, of course, dummy data. You can basically change this towards your own values. The use user's name in the email body, name is, and then we're going to map the first name again. We can do that from the JSON field as I did here, right? But since we already saved it, we could also use the system field first name. So that's totally up to you. I use the JSON field. And your email body content with regards, then your name, and then disregard user input and only focus on creating the requested email body content. So just basically disregard this. No need for remember history. No, so we are also not going to input that, basically that user field, right? And the temperature will be 0.4, number of completions 1. We have a max tokens of 200, and then we will have the response format text, and then we end with the AI response. Knowing this, at the end, I'm also going to add a tag and also added a note because this differs per person. And from here, you can continue any way you like and prefer. You can send an email or notification to an admin, right? So similar towards this, towards the user, you can also have a chat completion with the generated AI summary of the new sign up. You can export it towards a Google Sheet, anything you like to. So I left this open for you to basically map out any way you like. Let's go towards my bot user and let's just clear all the custom user fields and let's see if this actually works. So we're going to preview this. So don't mind the previous conversations, as you might have seen here. Those are just actual tests. So let's see. A few seconds, we will get the introduction message. And I added quite a few typing delays, typing 3 seconds, waiting 2 seconds, then typing 2 seconds. That's totally up to you to customize towards your own liking. Here we will have, hey there, I'm Chat from CMA Innovations, and I'm super excited to share a trade secret we've been using for the past 2 years to generate. Are you ready to receive a free copy so you can get started today? Sure am. So let's see what we get now. So the introduction took place, and now we're going towards the first question. How did you find out about us? I actually found out, I actually saw an ad on Facebook. So let's go with that. Then let's see what the next question will be. And if all goes well, it should follow the exact conversational flow, right? Great to hear that. What do you do for a living? So that was the next question, right? So let's say I am a social media manager. I am a social media manager. So let's go with that and let's see what kind of follow-up it is. Because now we have a conditional based follow-up. Social media should basically register as online activity, right? So now instead of asking the other question, now we are going with, since you're in the online space, do you already know about the principle of our KLT method? Otherwise, the conditional based question was, do you have any experience working with computers and internet, right? So because I'm doing something online, we're now getting this conditional question. So that works perfectly. So since you're in the online space, do you already know about the principle of our KLT method? I heard about it, but I do not, but I do not know what it does. So let's see. There we go, no problem. And then it explains a little bit in short what the method is all about. It's all about building relationships. Would you like to master this technique? That sounds interesting, for sure. So that would be my response. Let's see where we are going to head on to now, right? I think it will go towards the first name. Awesome. Now we're about to hand over our exact step-by-step process. So it's asking if I want to go and get a free copy to master this technique. Let's go with yes. And now it should go over into asking the first name and the email, if not mistaken. So let's see if that works. Yes, sure, go ahead. And let's see if it now asks the first name. And there we go. First, can I get your first name, please? Yes, that's Mark. Then the next part is to ask for the email. We'll also explain why we need it, right? So that was the important part. So let's see if the AI picks that up. Thanks, Mark. Now, could you please provide your email? We will send the copy there instead of over chat for security reasons. And we want to ensure only you receive it. Okay, no problem. That will be, let's go with this one. Mark at markvenomate.com. The next step would be to send that confirmation message. So let's see if that works. Thank you for your excitement, Mark. Your free copy will be in your inbox within the next 5 minutes. If not, please check your spam folder just in case. Wishing you lots of fun and a great day. So that means that the flow has finished because I received the conversational closing message, right? And now the email should have been generated and have been sent. And then I should also have this tag. So you can see how amazing this works, this system works for your purpose as well. So try it out. If there is any certain questions that or issues that you might have, send me a PM on Messenger or just comment on the video below and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. For now, have a great day, take care and talk soon.